President Trump broadened his attack on the press this week using his favorite venue, Twitter. So much fake news being put in dying magazines and newspapers. Only place worse, maybe NBC News, CBS News, ABC, and CNN. Fiction writers. And a new poll by Morning Consult and Politico says 46% of voters believe major news organizations fabricate stories about Trump. Just plain make them up. 37% don't believe that. That's just stunning. And we're back with Kimberly. You know, I've written about fraudulent journalism. I exposed Jason Blair at the New York Times, Jack Kelly at USA Today. But as a journalist, I find the notion that nearly half the people say we make stuff up pretty depressing. It's pretty rare, actually.
Listen, there's some fantastic, phenomenal journalists in this country who do a really incredible job in terms of researching their stories, many that travel overseas, those that cover in military and conflict areas. And so we owe them a large thank you and credit for the work that they do. However, I have seen in the media where people will take stories that are thinly sourced or say, I have a source, I have one other source, and there's no truth to them. So he's seen that up close and personal, because nowadays anybody can quote say they're a journalist when they're not, if they can start a blog and have a cell phone and take a picture, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, the president actually tweeting this morning that this is finally sinking through, referencing this very poll, and he says lost cred, the media have lost credibility. But look, unfair journalism, biased journalism, inaccurate journalism, sure.
Mainstream media.
Making stuff up is a serious indictment.
Well, that's a separate whole indictment, and I think you have to be more individual and specific in terms of who's doing what. But we've definitely seen that. How many stories have we seen have to be walked back or retractions or revisions when they've said stuff about President Trump? The bottom line is there is a thirst that doesn't seem to be able to be quenched for the mainstream media that wants to put forward stories that are negative about the president. They don't want to talk about all the positive job numbers and the economy and what he's doing with immigration, or what he's doing as it relates to national security or ISIS getting decimated, because that doesn't fit their narrative.
You know who agrees with this? Jimmy Carter telling Maureen Dowd in the New York Times this morning, media harder on Trump than any other president. Feel free to call him mentally deranged. But now, despite the president, keeping up his constant attack on what he sees as unfair, unbiased, and inaccurate journalism, he's talking to reporters more than ever before. He's having news conferences. He's taking questions at the helicopter. What explains this paradox?
Well, that should be applauded, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
He's been one of the most transparent and available presidents that we've seen in American political history. But that's not good enough for them. They'll find another reason to criticize him. You should be happy that he's out there tweeting, that he's telling you exactly what he thinks, that he's not hiding behind a veil. He's like his own best press secretary in many ways, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders doing a great job for him, too. But he's frustrated. Wouldn't you be when you see stories out there and you're like, this doesn't have any truth or merit?
Well, sure.
They don't give him credit for what he's accomplishing.
Every president gets frustrated with the press, but ABC's Jonathan Karl says he's had more opportunity to question President Trump in the last 2 months than he had with Obama in the last 2 years.
Right.
Let me just move
to... But they're far more disrespectful to President Trump. They didn't ever treat President Obama like this. And my point is there shouldn't be a double standard. It's very unfair, and it doesn't serve the American people who are thirsty and hungry for knowledge and accurate reporting.
Let me slip in a last question about Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who was asked about the potential to prosecute journalists for doing their jobs at a hearing. Take a look.
Will you commit to not putting reporters in jail for doing their jobs?
Well, I don't know that I can make a blanket commitment to that effect, but I would say this. We've not taken any aggressive action against the media at this point.
Is it troubling that he wouldn't rule out going after journalists legally for doing their job?
Well, and this was the question specifically was criminal, and the point is there may be civil remedies that you could bring if somebody is liable per se and defamation.
Right.
But as it relates to reporters doing the job, you have to let them do. That's one of the things that makes this country great: a free American press that's not afraid to ask the questions. So if you're in a position like that, you've got to answer the questions. You can be frustrated maybe with some of the content, but then you get out there and tell your side of it and go ahead and tweet and do what you're going to do. And that's what makes this country great. And we have a president that's not afraid to do that.
And by the way, it was the Obama administration that used domestic surveillance against AP, against Fox's James Rosen.
Totally improper.
So I hope we're not going to see a return of that. Kimberly Guilfoyle, great to see you here in New York.
Great to see you, too.
Thank you.